I met Anne first, waiting for the bus. Normally, I avoid talking to just about anybody, but she struck up the conversation. She was so pleasant, so confident. She smiled at me as if she had known me as a kid, and we were just catching up after all these years. She told me she could tell I had a hole in my life. She knew what that was like, she said. She had also had a hole, but it was gone now. I asked her what she was selling, and she laughed and said nothing at all, that what she had to offer was free for anyone who wanted it bad enough. I asked her what had helped her. She just said, James.
Sagebrush is a story-based exploration game where you discover the dark past of the Black Sage Ranch. Atmosphere. One of the most impressive things the game does is explain right at the start that you're exploring the site of a mass suicide, which sets the tone immediately. Even if nothing else happens during the game, you know something terrible happened here, which makes a lot of the exploring ominous, with various mundane things taking on a new light in the wake of previous events. Exploring totally abandoned communal areas is incredibly eerie, and I got the feeling of being somewhere I shouldn't be. But as the story progressed and more things were revealed, the atmosphere turned to dread as I unlocked more areas expecting to find something horrific. It's a very sad game that tells a very uncomfortable story. That's one Harry Mason. Scares. There aren't any enemies, and besides creaky floorboards and the lights flickering on and off during my time in the mine, there wasn't anything frightening that really took place. It's more along the lines of a campfire tale brought disturbingly to life than a traditional scarefest. The one thing that'll stick with you throughout the game is the realization that it's all based on real events and could actually take place. The later parts of it are deeply unsettling and extremely unpleasant. There aren't any scares, but the horror hangs in the air around you. That's still one Harry Mason.
I often helped Viola in the schoolhouse. I enjoyed working with the children. We taught them reading, writing, scripture. Viola was one of the most faithful among us. If Anne was like the mother of the flock, Viola was the older sister. I remember one lecture she gave the children on the nature of hell that was so vivid, so unflinching, it had the kids in tears. I told her she was scaring them, and she said, good, they should be scared.
Sound design. The sound design is a bit disappointing. It does feature directional audio, but the implementation is a bit poor on the PlayStation 4. Sounds can be heard long after you've left the area, and it's hard to tell where they're coming from. The music is moody and fits the depressing tone of the game, but it's just not there enough. There were occasions where I felt it should have come in when it didn't. The voice acting was very good for the most part, but some of the voice actors seemed like the same two people, even though that wasn't the case, which was confusing. That's still one Harry Mason. Gore. There are a few bloodstains, but thanks to the visual style of the game, they aren't much to look at. Gore is brought to life in harrowing diary entries explaining how punishment was dealt with on the ranch, which filled in the gaps. There's more mentions of all sorts of torture and willing self-mutilation than there is anything to see. The later parts of the story get more intense, but there's really only what's mentioned in the diary entries and audio tapes. Despite not being visual, the gore is present, even if the game paints it in your mind. That's two Harry Masons. Story. Sagebrush sends you to the Black Sage Ranch to uncover its past. It tells you right at the start that it was the scene of a mass suicide, and that hangs over the game as you recall the events that lead up to it. It's an excellently told story with some really disturbing moments. The audio tapes and diary entries are absolutely worth reading, and each new one revealed more creepy events and tales of depravity. The mindset of the cult is portrayed well, and it's not an easy story to stomach. It handles a lot of difficult themes. The final score, 3 out of 5 Harry Masons.
Don't be afraid. There's no need to be afraid. We must go through the flames, but the flames will not hurt us. Not our true selves, our spiritual selves.
Whilst the game only lasts about an hour, Sagebrush's story is one worth telling, dragging you into the events of the mass suicide and beyond. Again, I'd like to remind you this whole thing is down to my opinion in horror games. If you don't share this opinion, then that's cool, I get it. I'd like to point out that while some of the story was upsetting, I did not scream like a banshee or run away from the computer, and I advise you don't either. There'll be more horror reviews in the pipeline, and thanks for watching. And always go check out Bumps in the middle of the night. Peace.